Jessica Alstrom, spiritual teacher, medical intuitive, and quantum integration specialist, answers your spiritual questions and assists you through understanding your personal process while providing tools and techniques to move swiftly through the journey back to light.
Hello and welcome to the Transcendence Podcast. This is your host, Jessica Alstrom, and this morning's podcast is my favorite topic in the universe, is parallel realities. And today I want to take you guys on a journey through understanding shifting consciousness and shifting into parallel realities, which you are technically always doing moment by moment by moment by moment. But in this podcast, instead of getting really kind of scientific with you and trying to get you to understand molecules and atoms and the reconfiguration of time-space continuum and basically teleporting and all of that wonderful stuff that is actually going on within your own hologram, I'm going to keep it really simple, because if you can understand this idea and you can grasp this concept, then you will realize and look back over your life when you have actually done this. And you should, by the end of this hour, feel confident in practicing this new lifestyle. I'm hoping this air conditioner won't be too loud in the background, but it's Kansas, and I don't know why, but it feels like we're next to the sun this week. I mean, it is so hot here. So excuse the air conditioner in the background, but I'll do my best to make sure I speak up so the sound is clear. So parallel realities, first and foremost, you have to realize that moment by moment by moment by moment, no matter if you move your arm or look across the room, you are shifting into a parallel reality. That might be a little mind-blowing to fathom, so I'm not going to really take you into that type of study today. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can give your logical and emotional brain and mind the opportunity to recognize and experience a parallel shift. You know, there's a lot of great teachers out there that teach quantum jumping through a level of hypnosis. And it's awesome and it's amazing. But for me and the way that I teach, you know, I'm a big advocate of responsibility, and that's the ability to respond, and creating a life where you are deliberate in all areas. And hypnosis is fantastic, and it is actually one of the elements that you do use in order to really shift into a parallel reality, because hypnosis is basically going into the subconscious and unconscious part of you that is holding you back. But when we do and teach hypnosis through Transcendence Wellness Center, it's always in an awakened state, because we want your consciousness to be there with us, learning with us how this is done. And we don't want to create a codependency where you are, you know, out of consciousness and we're rewiring your subconscious to take you someplace else, because what will happen is when you shift into a parallel reality, you'll still be a victim. So everything that I do and teach is very deliberate to keep you in the driver's seat of your experience. You know, my only job is to act as that mirror, that reflection of your higher self, that confirmation tool, and that remembering aspect. I'm constantly there to remind you of who you are and what you're capable of. And that's it. And so if codependency starts to get involved in any of our teaching, then what we notice is that people only accelerate when they're right next to us. And that is not what we want. We want to be able to provide the tools, the techniques, the practical application, the support, and the teachings that allows someone to really be able to download and become whoever they choose to be, understanding the mechanisms of the universe, because you're all doing it all the time. But when you become deliberate in your parallel reality shifting, then what starts to happen is you start to feel unlimited. Because I can probably guarantee that the biggest complaint that I get in my office on a daily basis is, you know, I'm here, but I want to be over there. I have this life that I want to live over there, and I'm stuck here. Or, you know, I feel like I should be wealthy, and yet I can't, you know, create money. My relationships don't seem to work for me. This pain in my body won't go away. I don't have enough time. I'm not educated enough. I, have too much abuse in my past. And so basically what you do is you come to me and you tell me your story. And that's the story of what is. That's your circumstance. That's the story that has been generated and created by a series of unconscious moments and undeliberate manifestations. And that's it. So when you come and you tell me your story and you feel like it's so solid and it's so real, it's like you have created an ice sculpture of your life, and it's very hard for you to bend it or meld it into another way. And for me, I don't see the world that way. I see that your story today is the story of yesterday. And if you want a different story tomorrow, all you have to do is change who you are today. And so, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up around Hollywood. And so I know I make a lot of movie references and actor references and character and prop, talk about props and stages. And because really when you go behind the veil and you look at how reality is really set up, it is nothing more than a movie. Your life is just a movie, and it is as changeable as going into the editing room or the workshop of your mind and cutting and clipping different pieces together or eliminating an entire scene. And if you're going to listen to this podcast in depth and understand it, I would recommend that you go back and listen to several other of my other podcasts or other teachers that are speaking on, emotions versus feelings, manifestation, and my particular modality, time travel, because in order for you to change the future, you got to change the past. Now, there's a lot of parallel reality teachers out there that will teach you how in this present moment, how to just become something new and walk in the direction of that. And that is absolutely attainable. But from my experience, what's haunting to us most of the time is not that we don't believe we can move forward, but it's because we have so many stories of the past that they are almost haunting, which means when we start to move forward, the echo of the past is so loud that we move into that place of fear, or we move into that place of numbness, or we move into that place of despair where things haven't worked out before. And, it really isn't about your consciousness being able to shift into parallel realities, because every time you go into your imagination, you are shifting consciousness, you are shifting futures, you are shifting worlds, you're shifting into a higher frequency, you're moving into 4 and 5 and 6D as soon as you go into your imagination. And so it's really only the body that we have to work on for this entire hour to get to believe in this new character that you're playing. That is it. We have got to, in the next hour, learn and convince your physical body that you are a different person. Because if we can convince your body that you're a different person, then all the little tiny electromagnetic energy that is alive and well in your cells will begin to pulse out a different frequency and move and shift into a different parallel reality where you are the person that you see in your mind. I've been seeing so much anger lately the last couple of weeks, and I think it's because we are really moving out of 3D into 5D as a collective. And the anger that I'm feeling just collectively is that people are really ready to be done with the past. They are really done, at least consciously. But physically, they keep getting pulled back into those thoughts, feelings, and ideas. And so there's the frustration. They're not mad at their spouse, their job, their house issues, their, car, their life, their capabilities. They are upset that they cannot stop thinking about the past. They cannot let go of the stories. They cannot let go of the fear. And that's where the real anger is coming from. Because at this stage in the game, it really is all about you. And it isn't anyone that is keeping you from anything. And I think you understand that viscerally, that it is you keeping you from you. And so what I want to do today is show you that the reason why you're having such a hard time is not that your consciousness doesn't know where you're going. It doesn't mean that your conscious awareness, your 5% of your thinking creative mind is not absolutely sure that you are, unlimited being of light. It's the rest of you. It's convincing the subconscious and unconscious versions of you that you can be anything you desire. Because the book that you keep opening, instead of, looking at the brand new page before you, every morning when you get up, you pick up your book and you reread the story of who you've been. And then you're like, oh, man, this is going to be hard. And the more you learn about spirituality and the more understanding you have and the more knowledge you get, it makes it even harder if you're not going to let go. Because you're starting to feel the truth and you're starting to know the truth of what you're capable of. And when you can't get your brain-body connection to get on board with this new character, then what happens is you get frustrated at everything. And ego's really good at directing frustration at others or even the weather. You could be frustrated about the weather. You could be frustrated about the traffic. You could be frustrated about your spouse or your job and it's very hard for ego to look in the mirror and say, I am really mad. I'm really mad that I have all of these tools and all of this knowledge and I can't shift. So that's kind of what I want to do today is teach you how, at a 4th grade level of how to become the master of parallel reality shifting so that you can shift into your ideal life. Because there's one thing about your life that I hope you understand by now if you're listening to my work, is that your higher self will never take their eye off the prize. They are sitting focused directly in why you came to be and who you really are and your biggest, wildest desires. They are holding that focus for you. They are holding that vibration for you. And that's when you think about those things, you feel good. And when you turn away from your desires and your hopes and your dreams and you start buying into things about yourself that higher self disagrees with, you feel bad. Because higher self will never lower its vibration to come rescue you down in ego. It will never do that. So in order for you to know how to shift your character, your personality, your whole soup that makes you up, your brain, body, your cellular memory, your biological computer, your consciousness, right? All of those things that make up your expression here in this particular game, we need to understand first and foremost what character you're playing. Because we can't shift you into a new character that's loving and abundant and free and healthy and kind and gentle and compassionate and superhuman if you don't really accept who you're being right now. And I've said this in every podcast. Law of attraction is not responding to what you want. It's responding to what you're being. It's responding to who you are. And so if you don't really know how you're behaving or you haven't moved into that acceptance piece of the character that you're really playing right now, then you're going to not be able to shift into something that you prefer. Because all you are doing basically is playing a role and you're really buying into that role and you're really believing in that role and you think that that's who you are. Okay? So consciousness has no personality. It has no it doesn't have anything about itself that makes it really special. It's just part of the all. It's just complete love and light. And so for consciousness to come down and embody and have an experience here, it's going to attach itself to a human bloodline, okay? So it's going to tap into lineage and ancestry and genetics, and it's going to pick up its personality traits based on the moment and time of its birth so that it can have a unique expression in the stars. So if you read your astrology charts, you'll understand your personality a little bit better about, whether you're wind or fire or water. And based on those elements, all of that combination mixed with your higher self's frequency of your personal desires and passions and purpose are all going to combine and meld into a being that is now going to experience a particular character role here. And that's just what's going on inside the body. I mean, that's your lineage, that's your ancestry, that's your genetics. That's all of those little pre-designed personality traits about you. You know, and a lot of people a few years ago were really inspired to go and learn all about their heritage and their bloodlines and, you know, understand themselves a little bit more about, you know, who they are and why they are and how they act and you know, where did they get their green eyes from, and that's all fantastic. That's kind of like, you know, spending 6 years to find out your spirit guides' names. It's wonderful, and it's a real time ticker. But is it really going to move you into who you came to be? Because that was just kind of your blueprint as a character to play out initially so that you could be part of a game. And as you moved through your first 7 years, you learned your limitations that you came forth to experience and overcome. You learned about conformity and segregation and separation and conditional love, and you learned what fear was and humiliation, and you were taught to guilt and shame yourself. And through all of that, you developed what's called resistance. And resistance in a human portfolio would be called resentment. Okay? So resistance is resentment. So if you're having resentment right now, it's only because you've been resisting who you've been taught to be through coming forth to play the game. So if you're going to change your character, okay, you first need to know what your character is, who it is, how it is, and really sit with yourself and even write down all of your characteristics and your character, qualifications. Like, who are you? If I asked you, come and sit down and tell me, who are you? And what I would get, is the story of you not really being allowed to be you, probably. And so there's a lot of resistance there, which means that even though you came forth to play an initial character because you knew you could change it, that's why you came in understanding how to imagine and pretend, you really bought in somehow that that was really you, and that you were going to be limited your entire life. So you, instead of saying, this is just an initial blueprint, I can change this, I just needed something to kind of come in to have a unique expression and experience, really buying into, how limited and, how rough you've got it. And so the thing that I ask people to do first is, if you're going to master parallel realities, you got to find out what character you're playing right now. Like, where is your character a victim? Where is your character's strength? Where is your character's weaknesses? Where is your character feeling guilt and shame and humiliation, and what triggers your character? And what potential does your character have? And what does your character dream about? And what does your character imagine or wish for itself? And then what happens is you start writing down and you start realizing that your character has been playing the victim for a really long time. And if you understand manifestation and law of attraction now, you understand that victim energy attracts victim energy. And so, yes, you got an initial blueprint of the character that you came forth to play so that you could basically learn how to be a deliberate creator of your reality so you could change your character. I mean, you've been changing who you were since you were like 1 year old. I look at my son playing, and 1 minute he's a wolf, and the next minute he's a horse, and the next minute he's a T-Rex, and he's constantly shifting into a different character so that he can have a different expression. It's not fun to eat vegetables as a little boy, so he eats his vegetables as a T-Rex. It's more fun for him, okay? So children intuitively know that these are the cards that they were dealt when they came in. They knew that at any given moment, they could be who they chose to be. And it's the family system, usually, or the school system or the media system that's constantly telling you to stop stop basically being anything other than yourself, but you're not good enough. And so there's a really big contradiction that goes on with the character itself, and that's how we become at war with ourselves. And that's how we've generated a war outside of ourselves, because everything outside of ourselves is just one big mirror to reflect how we really see ourselves and what we really believe ourselves to be. And that's why when you're doing a deep parallel reality work and you're learning how to shift, you've got to be hyper aware of all of your mirrors around you. That means your home, your car, your friends, your acquaintances, the bank teller, the guy that cuts you off, the numbers on the clock, the synchronicities in the books, the music, the songs that come on. Everything is a message for you to show you whether you're moving into your new parallel reality or if there's still triggers that are holding you back. And that's really where you have to get hyper aware. I'm just going to tell you, parallel reality shifting and being a master of parallel jumping, you have to be hyper conscious, which means that you've got to be so damn aware that everything becomes about you. And that's not selfish, that's creation. Because if you watch a child playing, it's all about them, and they're not in their ego when they're playing. They're just creating. They're creating the game. Let's do it this way. Let's do this. Let's play it this way. No, I want to play it this way. And it's because they understand from that God spec that they are within their being how to do this. And so what they're doing is they're practicing for when they can move into a place of being able to move their body responsibly on their own, that they would fully know how to shift realities. So if a child was taught early on this premise, then yes, they'd come in with that initial blueprint and those genetics and that bloodline and that ancestry. But they would know that was only a blueprint for them to be able to create with, and then if desired, could completely change it if they were able to hold their focus and do their shape-shifting, basically. Because we know from Bruce Lipton's work of epigenetics that genetics are totally malleable and changeable through belief and focus. And so let's look at that word first, because we've been taught by every teacher on the planet that your reality is held together and regenerated over and over, moment by moment by moment, by the things that you believe in. And so let's look at that word, belief. Let's dissect that word, being the lie. When you believe something, you become the lie of that, because there is no such thing as things. So when you believe something, you become the lie. So if you believe in something could hurt you, you become a victim of someone who can be hurt. And you're going to shift into your parallel reality by changing your state of being. Not wishing, not hoping, not thinking. You have to change your beingness, which means that your behavior, your thoughts, your words, your deeds, your language, everything has to be a shift into a new version of you in order for you to manifest that parallel reality that is waiting. Because there are thousands and billions and millions and trillions of parallel realities waiting for you to shift into. You have this desire in your heart to be something. And, maybe life's kicked you in the gut a few times, and so you've kind of lost maybe the details of that vision. But you have that feeling viscerally in your gut of who you are. And maybe you've never been able to express that part of you yet, but you still feel it. And you wouldn't be listening to my work if you didn't still feel that. And that is something that that is you. You just don't know how to get there because you've bought into so many beliefs about who you should be, or what you can't do or what you can't be, or the limitations of the third dimensional construct of religion or education or gender. And so if you buy into that, okay, if you believe that, if you become the lie of that character, then it's going to be really hard for you to shift into anything else, because honestly, in order to become a new character, you have got to change your beliefs, which means you can't believe in poverty and be wealthy. You can't believe in sickness and be well. You can't believe that you don't have enough money and create enough money. So what we do first and foremost is we take stock, okay? We look at our life, we sit down, and just like if an actor was going to get a movie role, what would happen is they would go and they would get their character background. And they would read all about their character background and who this character is and what their character's strengths and weaknesses are and what this character believes and what this character is fighting for and what this character is hoping for and wishing for and the purpose of this character. And this actor would be able to study this character, you know, how this character dressed, what this character looked like, how this character was with other people. And it would spend, you know, this actor would probably spend a good 3 weeks studying who this character is so they could believe in this character, so that they could shift into this character for a role. That is the same thing that you're doing. You just have done it unconsciously. I mean, you were doing this before you came down. You pretty much got your script before you came down, and you were like, okay, these are my parents. These are my self-chosen limitations. This is what I'm this is where I'm gonna fall into victim energy, and this is where I'm gonna rescue myself. And you knew before you came down what your character was gonna look like, because it was just your starting point. It wasn't your final version of you. It was just that place for you to get started. And so then what this actor would do is this actor would start practicing this character. And then the actor, you know, would move into the movie set where everything was designed around this character's personality, which means that this actor would show up on set and see a house that this character was going to live in, and it was perfect for that character. It means the paintings on the wall were perfect for what the character would choose, and the way the house was set up would be perfect for how the character lived, and you know, and all of these things. And your life is no different. The props, circumstances, events, and people in your life are actually neutral props to the character that you're playing. And so first and foremost, you've got to accept who you have been so you can change it. Which means you've got to accept where you're a victim. You've got to accept where your limitations are. You've got to accept where your beliefs, your limiting beliefs are. Which means if you have a limiting belief that you're never going to make it, then you really need to sit and honor that for a minute. And you really have got to accept that, because if you can't accept that, then it becomes that shadow that you can't see, and then it will just project into other people, and they will tell you that you're never going to amount to anything. So if you can just pull all your shadows up and write out your true character, and say, my character desires to be a life coach or a healer or a teacher or a singer or a writer or a songwriter or, you know, fill in the blank. But my character is playing that role right now where it's always missed opportunities and there's unrequited love, and I just never seem to get ahead, and every time I take 10 steps forward, I take 10 steps back, and the people in my life are not supporting me, and you know, I don't have the money to, you know, make my first album, or I can't find the people who are going to help me produce this song. And over and over and over again. I mean, you just have to be really like, look at your characters in your life. If you don't have a soul tribe right now, honestly, if you don't have at least 3 to 4 to 5 people in your life right now that completely honor and love you unconditionally and are on the same journey as you, maybe in a different way, but that understand that level of consciousness that you're vibrating, then your character is playing the character of feeling alone and doesn't have people around them that understand them and can't be authentic in their environment and isn't supported. Because that's all that's happening, is somewhere you have bought in to nobody understands you, you're the weirdo, you have to live a double life, and therefore the universe has to respond to your character and then give you props, circumstances, events, and people who are going to mimic your belief systems. That's it. That's all that's happening. So if you're going to shift, you've got to say, wow, I've really created a movie for myself and a character of myself where nobody gets me, and I feel alone, and you know, nothing works out for me, and no matter how hard I try, you know, I don't feel smart enough, or you know, I have one person that likes me. And it's just sit there and look at your movie, look at your character, and then look at your manifestations, and look at your reality that you've regenerated over and over again based on the character that you've been playing for how long. And you know, what happens is usually when we wake up, we shift into this higher level of consciousness and we become aware. But we become aware to the idea that we are beings of light and we are beyond the human form, and we start to read all of this material, yet we don't go back and change the belief systems that are locked down into the deep cellular body and brain. And so we start to actually live a double life. And I'll tell you, it felt like hell for me, because when I woke up and I started learning about all of this stuff and really starting to move into my truth, I didn't have anyone to share it with. And, except my books that I could refer back to and feel like, yes, at least this author understands it, or this teacher on YouTube understands what I'm going through. And for a really long time, I was that character that was awake and very alone. And I didn't realize at the time that all I needed to do was go back into my workshop and look at my limiting beliefs around being understood and being able to be authentic and change that character role. And then everybody would show up. So it was just a small tweak that I ended up having to make, and it took me a long time to realize that about my character, because the victim stories are so subtle in our hard drive that we really believe that it's true. I mean, we really believe that there's no one out there like us, or that there's no one for us, or, fill in the blank. And it's just a belief system, because as soon as you change the belief, you change your state of being. And as soon as you change your state of being, you start vibrating as your wholeness of your being. And the law of attraction has to respond instantly and shift you into a parallel reality where you are that new being, which means it's like jumping from one movie to the next movie in just seconds. Okay, so I hope this is making sense. So it really is just about the character that you're playing, and if you're going to shift into a parallel reality, you've got to look at what character you're playing and where you need to make character changes. And so in my, I used to do a live 4-week manifestation / parallel reality class. And, I did it in Kansas City, so I was lucky if I got 20 or 30 people that could understand the concept month after month, and it was good. But the thing is even 4 weeks at, 5 hours a day of really working on this technique is not something that some people can change after 50 years of vibrating a character, of being a character. It's like, well, I've been this way for 50 years. It's going to take me longer than 4 weeks. I really believe that if you have this 1 hour podcast, then you can do this, because I know that people are accelerating in their awareness. And that if you can grasp this concept that all you are is a byproduct of what you believe in, and recognizing and accepting the character flaws that you've been vibrating and holding a frequency at for a really long time, it's just about shifting a frequency. Shifting a frequency is a shifting a parallel reality. So if I shift my frequency into unconditional love, then I'm going to find my character in a unconditionally loving family, unconditionally loving space. Okay? So all you're having to do is shift belief systems, but in order to really be able to shift belief systems, you've got to know what you believe. And you know what? Start owning it. Because I don't care how, studied you are in metaphysics or quantum theory, but if you're not behaving like a person who believes that you are unlimited, then you are not unlimited. Because knowing and doing are two different things. It is the thing that I talk about most in class. I don't care what you know, I care what you do. I'm watching your actions, not your words. I'm listening to your great aha moments, but if you don't put them in physical action and start actually practicing what you have found out about yourself, then it means nothing. Actions are everything. Your words are a byproduct of what you believe you are capable of, but your actions are a demonstration of the beliefs in your subconscious mind. Take a breath. That one was big. Okay, that's where most people fall off the spiritual journey, and they just become students and not teachers. So really it's about accepting where you are so that you can look at your blueprint without judgment, see where you're a victim, see where you still believe in limitations, see where you still believe in segregation, see where you still believe that you are not one with everyone else, and just sit with that and go, holy wow, I have no idea that I was still a victim over here, or this character was still playing the victim over there. And see, when you can kind of separate yourself from your character and look down at it's just kind of like that was the costume that you picked up, you know, then you can easily take it off and make changes. But if you are like connected emotionally with your character, you know, and you can't give certain aspects of yourself up, then this is going to take you a lot longer. You've got to become really neutral with your character. And, you know, I'll tell you, the thing that's been holding me back personally over the last couple of years is this idea of blood family. And, you know, as a being of love and light, community is important to me and love is important to me. And we are taught so deeply ingrainedly that your family is to be honored and loved. And, you know, when you have your entire lineage vibrating, and you've got your entire bloodline vibrating, and you've got your birth experience vibrating, and you've got your first 7 years of loving your parents unconditionally, even if you weren't loved back, vibrating, it's really hard to let go of the idea that maybe your blood family isn't your real family. And that one was really hard for me. And that was the missing piece why I couldn't completely let go of third dimension, because it was like I knew logically that my family could not see and hear me for who I was, or accept me for what I did, or understand the choices that I drastically make from time to time when I shift characters, or really value how I raise my children. Yet there was this part of me, this place in my character, this little girl that just wanted to be loved by them. It was like, if they could just accept me, if they could just love me, if they could just see what I am doing good for the world, if they could, you know, and it was in such a deep place that if you asked me if I cared a year ago how my family felt about me, I would have been like, oh, I don't care, that's their journey. But obviously, if I hadn't shifted into a parallel reality where that really wasn't affecting me, I would have really been able to let go of that. And so that's really just been over the last few months where I actually have moved into a place where I love my family much more, yet I don't feel at all like they are my family. I feel like they sponsored my character to come down here and get lost and get found and help me with my limitations and help me learn compassion and strength, and help me learn about what collective consciousness believed in and get lost in that, you know, weird religious ideas of how the world works. And that was the purpose of that part of my life. And as I moved into my role of teacher and parent, then I realized that the family that I was actually seeking was my star family. And I know that might sound kind of weird, but when you start finding your star family, or your tribe, what happens is it's like you meet them and you instantly recognize them, and they do have a feeling of a brother or sister or a cousin or an uncle or a mother even, or a father, and it feels like maybe after 10 minutes of meeting them, it feels more natural being around them than your mom your entire life. That's your star family. And when you start to meet these people, and you all have them, then what starts to happen is you start to find community and support and unconditional love, and you can openly talk about all of the mistakes of your life and experiences of your life, and everyone looks at you like, yeah, I've been through that too, and wow, we were so lost, and of course we made choices out of desperation and fear, and of course we, you know, did these things. And it's like, finally, it's like being accepted. And I couldn't find them until I accepted myself, until I accepted that I was never going to be seen and heard properly the way that I wanted to be seen and heard by them. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's blood family is this way, but a lot of us are going through this. You know, this is a lot of people's reasons why they can't break free from their character, is because this lineage, this bloodline, this interaction connected between DNA and emotion is so strong that you're not even really aware that it's there. And, you know, and so I know what you're going through as your character, but Your character needs to be consciousness. It needs to be a spirit in a human body having an experience instead of someone's daughter or brother or uncle. It's like you've got to be a character that's neutral if you're going to create a new character. And neutrality is the only way to break that energy of the old parallel reality and shift into a one that you prefer. You've got to move into a neutral state, which means is when you accept who you've been without judgment, and you can lovingly let go of that character, let go of those limiting beliefs, and one of the ways that we do this is we do the time travel piece. So it's not like you have to use willpower to let go of your belief systems. You can literally go in and change your timeline, change the stories of the past, tell your body that another story happened, vibrate that feeling into the body, and the brain will accept it. It will build a new neural pathway. So now there's two stories in your body. There's a story of what the body experienced, and then there's a story of what the body imagined. Now, because the brain cannot tell the difference between imagination and real, the body will accept both stories. One's negative, one's positive, so it's creating neutrality in the body. So as soon as you do time travel, you now have a neutral state of being that's not active and vibrating towards law of attraction. Now it's your job to vibrate that new story louder than the old story in your life. Okay? Hopefully this is making sense. Because again, what you're basically doing is you're looking at your script, your actor's script, and you're looking at it and you're reading and you're going, okay, so this is who I've been, and no wonder I couldn't get ahead, no wonder I couldn't make money, no wonder I couldn't, let go of this and that, and you go, I fully accept this, and I'm going to do some time travel on some of the feelings that are feeling triggered right now that I can't move past emotionally, and I'm going to go time travel some of this humiliation and some of this grief and some of this fear so that I can create a neutral perspective in my body by putting a positive story in my brain-body connection. And when I do that, my homework as soon as that time travel is done is to basically start behaving as my new character. So this is the missing piece. You shift parallel realities based in what and how you're behaving. That's it. Your component of shifting realities is your behavior. That's it. That's how simple this is. Okay? So when you're going into your time travel, you're moving into a theta state of hypnosis. You're moving into that space of your Akashic records. You're moving into that space of the universal mind. You're accessing the field of potential. You're accessing the field of possibilities. You're moving on your timeline and being deliberate. So it's almost like your character you're playing while you're time traveling is a time travel specialist that's gone into the past to change the future. That's who you're being when you time travel. That's your character. Okay? So when you go in and you change the past and you vibrate that feeling into the body, now the body has both stories. And for a long time when people would ask me about my childhood, I would get confused because I've time traveled so much about my childhood, I don't know what stories are true anymore. And I know a lot about my childhood, but I also have a lot of really great memories that I've stuck in there in place of some negatives. And so I can really talk about some really horrible things that occurred without feeling any emotion towards it because it feels very neutral to me. And so it's not like that story is gone. It's just deactive of emotion. And as soon as things are not emotionally charged energetically, they have no magnetism with law of attraction, which means that if you had, an alcoholic father and you find yourself dating alcoholic men over and over again, then that's just a byproduct of the character that you played as a child that you continue to play as an adult child. That's it. So if you wanted to break that pattern, you'd actually have to accept that your character is wanting daddy's love and will find it in relationships that remind you of dad. And that's it. That's the character you've been playing. And if you're going to shift that, then you're going to go back in, you're going to time travel your relationship with your dad, and you're going to have him see and hear and love you, and maybe put the bottle down, and maybe him wake up too, and you guys live happily ever after. And if you can now, when you come back into your present moment, start riding that wave of emotion and energy that the time travel process has given you, and you can start actually behaving differently, which means this is where people fail. Is they do the time travel process, and now they've got both stories in their body. They've got the story of what happened and the story of what they've imagined. Both are absolutely true, and both are absolutely not true. So again, with consciousness, everything is real and everything is not real. So both stories to the brain happened, because again, brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and real. And as soon as you've taken the breath and moved a story down into the body, then all of your cells believe that story too. That's why you feel so light and empowered after time travel. Your body feels happy and at peace, and like a big weight has been lifted. Your body is really ready for you to be a new character. It's like all of a sudden that was your character change, and now the body is waiting to receive its new command from you of who are we going to be next. And so what happens is most people do the time travel process. They feel amazing for like 3 days, and the body is waiting on their character change. It's like, well, we got the new download, we got the new script, we're waiting now for your behavior to become like the version that you say you wanted to be. So this would be an example. The example that I could use is that, we've been doing a lot of time travel lately here at the office and everywhere around the world about when you gave up your intuition, when you lost yourself, when you lost trust for yourself, and to actually go back to that moment and rescue yourself and change courses and give yourself all of the universal knowledge, put that book in your hand when you were 10 years old instead of, having to get really lost in the matrix for all those years. And that's fantastic. And so if you do that correctly, and you shift that and you go back to that moment where you decided to not trust your intuition because it helped you be in your family easier, then what you should do is when you go and you shift into that parallel reality, into the timeline, into the time travel process, and become that person who chose to be intuitive and to change the story so that that character was allowed to be authentic, then what should happen is when you come out of the time travel, you have to start behaving differently. It's not going to just happen organically because your brain-body connection is constantly waiting for your command. And so what happens is for 3 days you're high or you feel good or you feel at peace, and then the body is waiting for you to behave differently because the brain has its coordinates of who you've been. So look at your age and realize that you've been practicing this character that you've been for how many years? For me it was like 30 years of practicing a professional victim. That was my role, and that was my character role. And so if I was going to become the opposite of a victim, and I'm going to do time travel, then when I come out of time travel, I have to start practicing not being a victim everywhere. And this is where a lot of people who have exchanged imagination for logic in their lives, this is where they get really stuck. So if somewhere down the line you decided to give away imagination and use your logical brain to feel special, important, and intelligent, then you're going to have a hard time with this. Because logic, right? Logic doesn't understand that it's okay to pretend. So many of you still don't believe it's okay to pretend. And I'm going to tell you the only way out of 3D is to pretend your way out of it. You have got to play your way out of it. You have got to pretend. Now, isn't that... Let's look at Jim Carrey. He gets paid $20 million to pretend to be something else for a 2-hour movie. I mean, if that's not symbolic, I don't know what is. So if you don't learn how to pretend, and you don't learn how to practice, and you don't learn how to become an actor of your own movie, then you're not going to shift. you're going to be the person who attains knowledge and nothing ever works out for you and things are still not moving and you're feeling the resistance because you won't let yourself play and you won't let yourself pretend. And, you know, anytime I've ever taught in energy medicine or quantum healing, it's always the first day is breaking that logical mind down and teaching that being how to play again. You know, imagine that you're this, imagine that you're that, imagine that you're doing over here, you know. And in next week's class of my life coaching certification, I'm actually going to start teaching remote viewing. And you learn how to remote view by practicing being other ways and things of consciousness, which means that you're going to practice and pretend being something else. And what happens is you begin to move your consciousness into other things, and you share space, and you be able to see through the eyes of what you've focused into. And you know, so that's going to be really fun for me next week. But for right now, your job is to pretend, because here's the thing: your body learns behavior based on its belief systems. So you've done something over and over and over again, and then it becomes automatic, like tying your shoes, driving a car. You had to practice, okay? You had to say, I am a person who can tie my shoes. And then you had to sit down and you had to do it, and you had to do it, and you had to do it, and you do it. And then you became the person who could tie their shoes. So when you first started, you felt ready to tie your shoes, so you had to practice. And then it became automatic. This will become automatic too if you just give yourself time to practice and pretend. So this is what it would look like in 3 weeks. If you time traveled a situation that you felt was holding you back. So let's just say it like you're this person who just never has enough money. You have what you need, but you don't have an abundance so that you can really create and be who you came to be. And that's your story, and that's your character, and that's your props and your circumstances and your events, and everything that's lined up perfectly for that character keeps showing up over and over again. And you decide that you're done with that. You're ready to make a change. And so you go back and you time travel all the times where, you know, you couldn't have what you wanted, or you didn't have the abundance, or you weren't able to be creative, or you weren't able to take that art class, or you weren't able to do whatever, fill in the blank, and you change that story in the brain-body connection. Then your job, once you get out of that time travel, is you become that artist, you become that authentic self, and now you've got to practice it, which means you may have to change the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you live, the way that you answer questions. Your language can't be about victim energy anymore. You can't be talking about what's going wrong on the planet. You got to be talking about solutions. And you might be full of it for a while because your old character's like, what? That doesn't feel. But your new character knows that the only way to parallel shift is to become the beingness of who you choose to be and vibrate that brain and body and spirit all the way through the universe, and it will come back to you in the form of shifting you into a parallel reality where you are that being, which means the universe has got to put you into a new movie with different props, different people, different circumstances, different opportunities, and different events to help you play out the new character. Okay? And that's why a lot of times when you shift big, that's when you manifest something that feels very negative right after. Like you'll be really high and you'll have an aha moment and you'll have like a total expansive experience, and then the next day, you know, something will happen and it'll appear negative. It is the universe saying, okay, you say you are this person. So in order for me to shift you into a parallel reality where you can live as that person, you have to be tested to see if you can handle this new reality. Can you be responsible for this new reality? So I've noticed that it's usually about 3 little lessons that will pop up for you to be able to hold your state of being. And I think I said this in Second Sunday. It's like if you move into a parallel reality, and you become this person who is abundant in all ways, and you really feel that in your body, and you've done the time travel work to eliminate any stories that are on the timeline that are holding you back from believing that, and you've done your belief system work, and you've changed all that, and you start moving into that parallel reality where you are that person, then that person would be unaffected by getting a big bill in the mail, or getting pulled over by a cop, or having your toilet break, or have something happen that to a very abundant, unlimited person, it wouldn't faze you. So it's challenging your state of being to see if it's going to faze you, because if it phases you, you are not that person who can handle that reality yet. And so you'll go back and you'll need to do some more practice or some more timeline work. And then when you start like totally ignoring, you know, the things that come in, the things that should be coming to shake you up and rattling your old victim energy, you feel very abundant in, then what'll happen is the next moment things will start shifting, which means all of a sudden you're going to meet this person and they're going to have this idea and they're going to bring you, you know, what you need, and all of a sudden your surroundings start to change very quickly, and the people in your life start to change very quickly, and abundance is everywhere now, and you know, ideas are flowing and connections are being made, and it's like really you're just shifting into a state of being that you can hold and accept and love, and that's it. That's parallel reality shifting. It's changing the past to change the future and then behaving differently. That means that you have got to behave differently. And some of the things that I'm actually going to be working on an app for your phone where you can actually program your character into the app of who you choose to be, and it will set off reminders for you all day. And you could change it at any time. So it's almost like virtual reality app where you're going to type in who your character is, and then throughout the day it will pop up on your phone, you know, behavior of this character to make sure that you are staying on track. Because when you live your life, 90% of your life is lived automatically, which means it's on, you know, autopilot. You can brush your hair, brush your teeth, go take a shower, and do all the things that you do. You can go to work, you can have conversations, you can eat certain foods, and you can come home and you can do your routine and you can go to bed. And 90% of that is automatic, which means that it's on autopilot, which means you're not really conscious of it. So some of the things that you can do in the meantime before, you know, we get this app made is that you can start brushing your hair on the other side, brushing your teeth on the other side using the other hand, you know, take a shower standing on one foot to really create balance and be present, and don't fall though. And you know, I mean, just completely random things to shake up your autopilot syndrome. You know, drive a different way to work, listen to different music, you know, listen to a podcast instead of commercial TV at night while you're doing the dishes, live in your mansion while you're doing the laundry, you know, eat food that you would eat if you were wealthy or abundant, you know, and you don't have to eat a lot of it. Just bring it into your reality. It's like go to those stores and shop for those things and window shop for those things and really create that vision board of who you are so that it can constantly reflect back to you all throughout the day so you can remember who you are. So it's almost like a visual affirmation tool designed by your new character. And you're going to be the one that when you're in that high place of awareness, you're going to be able to type in your character and it will remind you all throughout the day. It will also remind you, take 10 deep breaths right now. That's going to put you back into your body. That's going to put your, into the state of being where you are aware of what you're thinking and being. And it doesn't take very long. I mean, I can probably shift characters now in 3 days if I really, you know, focused and shift into a whole different place. And when you start doing this, you know, you're not going to necessarily have to leave people behind because you will create a version of them that will come with you. And the people who are supposed to come with you will come with you. And so you'll never be alone on this process. And that's why I'm teaching so many people to do this so we can all go together, you know, because I can shift so quickly that I don't want to get too far ahead where I'm the only person that I can create around me. And, and I still have children to raise, so I want to be in their lives as well. And they have belief systems that I have to honor, and so we have to kind of go at that speed of where we can still be very advanced beings of consciousness, yet we can still have a really solid platform of family. And so that's kind of where my level of consciousness is accelerating right now, is to teach this heavily with people so that we can all go together. Because you are so unlimited. There is nothing about you that you can't change. You can change genetics, you can change body problems, body issues, body looks, you can change the history of your life, you can change the history of the planet. You're completely unlimited. Your life is just a fairy tale waiting to be written by you. The technique is the behavior, though. So if you haven't listened to the time travel, and you haven't watched the documentary, and you haven't watched the Second Sunday, then I would recommend doing all of those and then re-listening to this, because behavior is how you shift into a parallel reality. It's like people come to me and they say, oh, I want to do this so bad, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited, and it feels so awesome, and it's wonderful. And so we do, we raise the vibration, and we do some clearing, and we do some time travel, and we really have the aha moments. And then they go back into their own life, get triggered, and move back into their old character. And that's sad, because, and as long as it doesn't keep happening, because it does in the beginning, you're going to be like triggered, and that's your first challenge, to go, oh wait, that version of me doesn't get upset about those things. That version of me doesn't feel that way anymore. And I just got to let my body know and update my body on who I am now and start behaving differently. Okay? That's it. That's the trick. So change the past to change the future. Start vibrating a different character. Rewrite your script. After you've accepted the initial script, rewrite your script. Like, sit down and write your script of who you are. So anybody out there heard of method acting? Okay. So method acting is actually a tool that I teach in my life coaching certification so that people can shift into that parallel reality. And method acting is basically like, I'll just use Robert De Niro as a reference because he's a method actor. And what he does is, when he gets a movie script that excites him, then what he does is he spends a few weeks studying this character. And he researches this character, and he goes into the environment where this character lived, and he spends 3 to 4 weeks in this environment with the people that this character has been written about. And he will live amongst them, okay? And as he's living amongst them, he is asking them questions about character traits and how they live and what they do. And he totally just saturates and involves his whole beingness into being this character. And then when it's time to shoot the role, he stays in character, which means that when the director says action, he doesn't become the character when the director says action. He was the character before he even walked on the movie set. And when the director says action, he is just still being that character, so it's flawless. And when the director says cut, he continues to be the character, which means he actually removes himself from his regular life for the whole duration of the movie, so that he doesn't get caught back up in the character of who he is. He stays in character. And even when actors will walk up and talk to him when they're off set or having lunch, he is that character, so they know that they're not going to be talking to Robert De Niro, they're going to be talking to the character. And that's why he wins these awards, because he's so believable. And people have done this in practice, in consciousness training, and they've even began to morph into looking like the character that they've become. Their eye color has changed, their mannerisms changed, their language changes. And so the thing is because the brain and body only believe what you're behaving as. And they're just used to how you've been behaving. And so when you're not being conscious, they're going to just revert back to who you've been. So it's not like you're going backwards after you do time travel or you get an energy medicine session. You just have to change your behavior to be that character now, and you've got to vibrate that into its beingness for a few days so that the universe can get the coordinates of your new frequency and start giving you different places, faces, opportunities, circumstances, and events that are fitting for your character. And that's what's happening. I mean, that's the 4th grade version of parallel reality shifting. It's all about behavior. Behavior and belief dictate your reality. So change the future, change the past, right? Become the version of yourself that you want to become. That means that if you're at a crappy job, you've got to be walking around like you're the CEO. You've got to be imagining in your mind that, you own the company or that you're at the job that you would wish. You've got to be completely pretending in your present job, in your present place. That's why when I'm doing the laundry, half the time I'm not doing the laundry. I'm somewhere beautiful on the beach. I'm talking to great friends. I'm having great ideas. I'm building my future. And it's kind of like what I talked about earlier is my son. He doesn't want to eat his vegetables, so he becomes a T-Rex to eat the vegetables because it's more fun. What's the difference of him becoming a T-Rex while he eats his vegetables than you pretending that you're the CEO out of a job you hate? It's not different. You're still being that deliberate creator of your reality, and you've got to allow yourself to pretend. And if you can't pretend, that is the first thing that you need to learn how to do again. You need to learn how to play. You need to learn how to pretend, because there is nothing that you can create in your life through action and logic. All you're going to do is repeat the past and get sicker and sicker and sicker because you came here to change the world. And so if you're not actively changing the world in your imagination and behaving as if you could change the world, then you're going to start getting really sick. You're going to start having a lot of resistance, and your life is going to start breaking down because it's like your higher self knows you're ready. If anybody's ready on the planet right now, it is the indigos and the light workers and the empaths. We are ready to move into why we came here. And we've just got to let go of the past and start behaving differently so that we can take ownership of who we actually came to be. And if you don't know who that is yet, start pretending what is a symbol of who you would rather be. Okay? And if you don't know what that looks like, find someone who is very inspiring to you and find out everything you can about that person and start practicing that character just like Robert De Niro did. And then what will happen is you'll raise your frequency and vibration so high that higher self will say, wow, he's really doing it. Now we'll be able to move them into their unique expression. I've had someone train under me before that was literally like, I just want to be just like you and do exactly what you're doing. And I thought to myself, that's not why they came, but that'll be okay. They can use me as a symbol while they're learning. And so they started asking me a bunch of questions about the things that I do and how I do them and how I behave, and they started mimicking a lot of things that I was doing and feeling and vibrating. And then one day what happened is they came to me and said, I really thought that I was going to be doing what you're doing, but I really feel like I want to do this. And I said, yep. And I said, now so just start behaving that way. And they did, and it was just like they needed that symbol, that carrot in front of their eyes to walk forward and use as a expression, because they had been so lost in their belief of what they could even potentially be. The closest thing that they could find to their true self was me. And so I love and honor that, because to me it was like, I remember in 2007 I was reading Oprah Winfrey's story and how she kept getting turned down by TV stations, and they said that she would never amount to anything and that she was worthless and she would never be able to account to anything, and she kind of had a similar childhood as me. And I thought, okay, that is inspiring. I can hold on to that, and that's a character that I could model myself after. So it's okay if you have someone that really inspires you that you want to model your character after. That's okay, because what will happen is when you raise your frequency and start activating the real connection between you and higher self will be like, we've got it from here, and we're going to go over here and do this. And it will be effortless, it will be easy, it will be simple, and it will be the uniqueness of why you came. You'll never again be jealous of anyone. You'll never again wish that you could switch places with someone. You'll never again wish you had someone's abilities, because you will start understanding what is unique about you and why you are the way you are, and all of the things that are so inherently you will start to be really evident, and you'll start to feel good about who you are. And so it is a process. So I hope that this was understandable. I tend to go very quickly because I usually only have about an hour. But if this is really what I'm working with my coaches right now, because a lot of my light coaches have the desire to be these healers and teachers and quantum time travelers, and their old character is someone who couldn't do these things. And so what I'm asking them all to do right now is behave as if they are already doing this. And so they're practicing with each other all around the world through Skype, and they are that coach, and they are that enlightened soul, and they are that alchemist, and they're having to hold that so that they don't have low confidence when they start doing that, or abundance issues when they start doing this. Because the thing is you can be the best teacher or healer in the world, but if your old character has abundance issues or confidence issues, your schedule won't fill up, and your clients won't come, or you'll attract the clients that are going to tell you that you're not helping them, and that's not you. That's your past character still vibrating in a parallel reality where that is not where you want to be. So I will leave you with that today. And again, I did a podcast. If anybody's interested in being part of my certification, I do a consultation with you first to make sure that you're a fit, because we do move fast. I have a beginner's class starting. That's getting ready to start on Saturdays, and that's virtual. You don't have to live in the United States to be a part of that. And then we have our advanced class, so you can actually have the ability to tap into both the live classes or the online curriculum, and everything is videoed and online with the worksheets and everything that you would need to create the certification that certifies under me and Transcendence Wellness Centers Incorporated and International TICA, International Academy for Consciousness, and yeah, so we're really excited about this team. I mean, I think we've got about 20. We're close to 30 now, and I've never met more people that felt like family. So when I was talking earlier about my star family, I had no idea that I was going to do this certification and find my star family. So I appreciate all of you guys and look forward to meeting more of you, because we really are all looking for each other now, and we are stronger together because we can keep each other supported and remind each other of who we really are when collective consciousness feels very real, or circumstances feel very real. And so if you feel inspired, reach out, Jess Alstrom at Gmail, or www.transcendencekc.com to speak with Susie about details. And I look forward to meeting and speaking to you all through email, if only that. And hopefully this inspired and helped you understand parallel realities a little bit more today.